Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Irvin, also known as Koboman. This video is going to go on my secondary channel, which is Koboman Tech Tips, as part of the knowledge base. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is because this question came up in Discord. So I have a Discord and there are a bunch of people there, which is fine. But it kind of gave me an idea to make a bonus video that will go on my second channel. It was related to question that was somebody was wondering, how they can connect two servers that are at two different locations. So the reason I have this Illustrator, is to actually draw and kind of see how this goes as one of those videos that I haven't ever done. So what I'm going to use is use these drawing tools to kind of emphasize of what I'm talking about. So in this case, I'm going to make a square for server 1 and then a square for a server 2. Matter of fact, let me make that different color here. I'm going to make this one yellow, I think. So the question was, how can I connect two different servers at two different locations? So I'm going to name this one serve 1. I'm going to make this okay, like that, and serve 2. Please let me know in the comments if you're interested in this type of video. It's a quick video for me to do. There's not a lot of editing, so I decided to give it a shot. So server 1 here is located at totally different location. He didn't give me any details, which is perfectly fine, because matter of fact, I told him not to give me any information that would possibly compromise his work, because this is at his work and I didn't want him to give me any details. But nonetheless, server 1 here is at one location and server 1 is at the other, but they are not on the same network. So for example, let's assume server 1 here is, we're just going to create a fictional location. We're going to call it CA, which means California. All right, we're going to assume that it's in California. And this other one, we're going to make it, and we're going to assume that it's at Florida. So although this is the same company, for some reason, these two servers are not on the same network. Typically in a big business environment, in a corporate environment, big, large businesses, they have servers at multiple locations that will be on the same network regardless of their location, really. So how is that done? Well, it's done through the switches, the trunk lines, proxies, and all kinds of different things that make that possible. But the issue here is that, let's see here, where's the draw? Here we go. That you cannot, in this case, you cannot send data back and forth between these two, because as I've stated, they're not on the same network. So typically you would just type in, for example, IP address of a server, and then you would be able to connect to it and then transfer data, whatever it is that you need to do. If you need to use remote desktop connection to connect to it and do some kind of updates, performance, whatever it is that you need to do on it, this is not going to work because they're not on the same network. So that's the issue here. In this case, he's asking what's a good way to make this happen so that files can be transferred between these two. And the suggestion I had, or a couple of suggestions, was using SSH. First I asked him, well, what kind of servers are these? What kind of servers are these? And I asked if it was SSH because this is typically, and not necessarily, it can be both, but it's typically used with Linux servers, right? You can also use SSH to connect to a Windows server, but it's typically used for Linux servers because it's command line, and we know that most Linux servers, they don't even have a GUI, which is a graphical user interface, right? Sort of like where I'm clicking right here. This is all graphical user interface. There is nothing to click on. There is no interface, you know. It's all command line. It's meaning that it's like same thing you pull up, for example, just kind of the way it looks. It's similar when you pull up, for example, DOS and you just start typing commands and this and that, in case you don't know what SSH. But SSH is basically a secure shell connection that allows you to make changes on the server, whether it's updates, create new documents, move data, delete data, change config files, all of that. It's just one way to connect to the server. And that wasn't the case. He just wanted to transfer files. So I suggested another thing, which was SFTP. So SFTP is a secure file transfer protocol. S stands for secured, encrypted file transfer protocol. And that can be done with many different tools or many different software that you can install if you're just going to access the files on different servers. And you can set this up on either server and just log into one server. For example, you use remote desktop on this one, for example. You know, you go RDP, like if you have access to this one, you use RDP, you log into it with RDP, and then you install SFTP client or software right here. And then you can do the same thing on the other one, and then you use that to connect to this other server and then transfer files. And it's just like kind of like similar to using just like Windows Explorer, to just basically you're browsing folders and you're copying files back and forth. It's just that you're connected using SFTP client, like something like FileZilla or whatnot. Once you set up those connections, like you can do drag and drop, just like as if you're browsing files on your computer. That wasn't the case, and he mentioned using a VPN. So that wasn't my suggestion. Well, let me do this here. VPN. That was his question, whether he can use VPN. And yeah, you can do VPN. My main concern about VPN is that it can be slow, depending how you're going about this. Typical VPN, you go to one machine and you open up VPN software. Let's say you go to server 1 here. You open up VPN, you connect to the server for the VPN, and then you do the same thing on server 2. You connect to the same VPN, and as long as it's on the same network, now you have direct access to the files, and you can just access both of these servers, you know, over the network. And, you know, I guess you can leave server 1 and server 2 running and connected to the VPN to the same network, and then you can, from any client, from any other computer, you can access both of these, you know. So I'm just gonna, matter of fact, let's make another box. I'm gonna make it, I don't know, let's make it purple. And I'm gonna call it My PC. And then with that, I hope this is coming out decent. Again, this is my first time attempting to do something like this in a video format. And now from this PC, now we got server 1 that's connected to the VPN. Let's do the arrow action. Draw. Let's use a pen here. So now we got server 1 that's connected to VPN. We got server 1 that's connected to the VPN. And now they can communicate because they're on the same network. And then this one, this computer, your PC, is also connected to the same VPN. So it's the same network. Now you can freely access any of these like that. Of course, my suggestion was, or my thought was, this is going to be slow because you have to connect to another VPN that you might have hundreds of people using the same server to connect to it. And it might be fine if you're transferring files from one server to another that are physically connected to that network, but they're not. Server one is connected to the VPN, same VPN that your computer is connected, and then you got server two that's also connected to that, and it's going to be slow. And how do I know this? If you're using VPN right now, and I'm talking your company's VPN, let's say you have 100 megabits connection, and then you connect to your company's VPN, and you're on the network, do a bandwidth test and let me know if your connection is slower than what your normal connection is. I guarantee it's going to be slower than 100 megabits per second. There's a really high chance of that. So imagine this, server 1 and server 2 are also connected to it, and now you're only getting 20 megabits per second. Can you imagine transferring files, let alone large files or even databases from one to another? It's not going to work well. It's going to be slow. So what he also asked me was using VPN to set up a direct connection between server 1 and server 2, but it's to create a point-to-point tunnel, which is, I believe, acronym is point PPTP. It's also known point-to-point transfer protocol. I believe that's what it stands for. But what it does is you technically speaking, you connect both of these servers, server 1 and server 2, directly through what they call a tunnel, uh, which VPN is considered the same thing. But in this case, it's an old protocol that's not really used much because it's not very secure. So it's using VPN, and you can use OpenVPN, or some VPNs actually support this. But you open up a VPN software, and then you have to manually type in the name of the other server in order to connect to it. So you have a direct connection between two of them. But then again, you're still not on the same network unless one of them at least is connected to the network physically. So it becomes super, super complicated. For those reasons, my final suggestion was to just use SFTP. And I forget if I had another suggestion for him, but it doesn't matter in this case because SFTP here, in my opinion, is the best solution for his situation, and I'll explain why. I'm going to delete this SFTP. I'm going to make it all, there we go, SFTP, make it white letters. Mainly because you can set up SFTP on not just server 1, server 2, but you can also set it up on any computer, which is including my PC here and any other user's computer. So let's say you have Bob, Lucy, James, Susan, and maybe their manager. They all need access to server 1 or server 2. Well, you can actually set it up on user basis. You can set it up so they can connect to any of these servers, and there might be a little bit of teaching on how to use it. It's slightly more complicated than just browsing files on a server when you have a direct network connection, but it's not super complicated, and you can teach somebody how to use it in like a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes. So and it will be a direct connection using SFTP, and it would not be using VPN at all. It would bypass all of that. You just have to keep in mind that you have to set it up on server 1 and server 2 to allow these connections. And I'm not going to get into details on how you can set up these systems right now. I think I have a video on that somewhere on my main channel. But here I'm just kind of generally talking what would be the best solution for this type of issue. And it's really bizarre that You got server one, God knows where, not on the company's network, and you got server two, God knows where, that's also not connected to the company's network, which is really bizarre. And here you are, you wanting to transfer files back and forth. So anyways, the point-to-point transfer protocol is not very secure to use, and it's an old protocol, and I wouldn't want to use it. In my opinion, it's best to set up SFTP, and whoever actually needs to use these servers, you can go to their PC, set it up, and just show them how to use it. You don't have to show them how to install anything. You just do it for them, set it up once, and all they have to do is whenever they, for example, open up FileZilla or anything else, they just have to click connect, and then it's browsing files. It's directly browsing files as if they're browsing their documents, and they can copy, paste, move, delete, whatever else that they need to do. And in that case, also, it doesn't matter whether these servers are Linux or Windows servers either. All right, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Guys, let me know if this is useful to anybody, if it made sense, if I don't know, if this is working for anybody, mainly because people learn differently. This is just my attempt of using kind of more graphics that I just kind of, draw myself and kind of explain these things. Hey, if people are interested, I can make more of these videos. These are not hard to make, and it doesn't involve me doing a lot of editing, zooming in and out. Uh, that's different from just tutorials on how to use it. This is just explanatory video. If you like it, let me know, and also don't forget to subscribe, because right now I don't have a lot of subscribers on this channel, and I appreciate all the people who already are subscribed. I know you subscribed. I see you guys I know a lot of you came from my main channel to support me, which is awesome. I love to see it. I really appreciate it. All right, take care, and you have a wonderful day.